Today, Israel demands the withdrawal of UN peacekeepers from Lebanon. Tunisia's authoritarian president is poised for a landslide re-election, and Keir Starmer appoints a new chief of staff. From TLDR News, this is your daily briefing for Monday the 7th of October 2024. Ireland's President Michael D. Higgins has criticised the Israeli military for telling UN peacekeepers, including Irish troops, to evacuate the villages they're protecting in southern Lebanon. Speaking on Sunday, days before Ireland's Prime Minister is due to visit the White House, President Higgins said, "It is outrageous that the Israeli Defence Forces have threatened this peacekeeping force and sought to have them evacuate the villages they're defending." He also added that Israel's demands for the withdrawal of UN peacekeepers is, quote, an insult to the most important global institution to which 193 members are committed. For context, Ireland has 347 peacekeeping troops stationed in southern Lebanon as part of a joint battalion with Polish soldiers. Their presence is intended to mitigate the risk to civilians by providing a buffer between the fighting sides. Irish troops have been serving as peacekeepers in Lebanon since 1978, and 2 of the 25 outposts on the Blue Line, the boundary separating Lebanon from Israel and the Golan Heights, are under Irish command. However, the UN's peacekeeping force in Lebanon, UNIFIL, released a statement on Sunday, saying it was deeply concerned by recent IDF activities close to the Irish position, and that the request for peacekeepers to leave was an extremely dangerous development. Meanwhile, a spokesperson for the Israeli military said the IDF was in communication with UNIFIL to make sure they are, quote, not in harm's way when there are clashes with Hezbollah. It comes as Israel continues its ground assault into southern Lebanon, with the stated aim of allowing displaced Israelis to move back to their homes in the north. Around 60,000 Israelis have been internally displaced from the north, along with around 100,000 Lebanese on the other side of the border. Overnight, Israel also stepped up its bombardment of Beirut, launching more than 30 strikes across the southern suburbs of the city, targeting what the IDF says were Hezbollah's weapons and storage facilities, intelligence and infrastructure. Today, Monday the 7th of October, also marks the one-year anniversary of the start of the Israel-Hamas war. Hamas's deadly attack on southern Israel saw around 1,200 people murdered and another 251 taken hostage. In the years since, around 42,000 Palestinians have been killed. Around the world, the date has been marked by memorial events, vigils and rallies to commemorate the tens of thousands of innocent civilians who have been victims of this brutal war. There's more on the way, but remember to subscribe and ring the bell for more daily briefing tomorrow. Plus, if you want to support the channel like Charles E., then consider joining the TLDR Daily Membership Programme for just $1.99. Tunisia's President Kais Saied is on course for a landslide re-election after an exit poll showed him winning Sunday's presidential election with nearly 90% of the vote. The election was held against a backdrop of a political crackdown and gradual erosion of democracy by Saied since he came to power 5 years ago. The country's electoral commission said turnout stood at 27.7%, half of what it was in 2019, suggesting high voter apathy. The exit poll put Saied on 89.2% of the vote, while his former ally turned rival Zuhair Maghzoui was on 3.9%, and his other opponent, Aichi Zamel, who was jailed last month, received 6.9%, according to the exit poll. In his first comments following the election, Saied said, "This is a continuation of the revolution. We will build and we will cleanse the country of the corrupt, traitors and conspirators." For context, Tunisia has been hailed as the only relative success story of the Arab Spring, as it ousted its longtime dictator in 2011 and went on to establish a nascent, competitive but imperfect democracy. Kais Saied was elected president in a landslide in 2019, but in 2021 he suspended the elected parliament, invoked emergency powers, and rewrote the constitution to concentrate power in his hands. The new constitution was approved in a referendum with just 30% turnout, and rights groups have condemned Saied for continuing to crack down on dissent and political competition. Saied and his supporters say his actions have been necessary to build a new Tunisia, end its past political paralysis, and drive economic growth, though the country is still facing significant socio-economic difficulty. Another election update now, and this time from Brazil. On Sunday, more than 5,500 municipal elections were held across the country, shaping Brazil's political landscape ahead of the 2026 presidential race. In Sao Paulo, Latin America's biggest city, the first round of mayoral elections resulted in a near three-way tie. Official results show that the first round was won by Sao Paulo's incumbent centre-right mayor, Ricardo Nunes, who secured 29.5% of the vote. Federal lawmaker Guilherme Boulos came a close second with 29% of the vote. In third place was far-right political novice Pablo Marçal, who rose from obscurity to earn 28.1% of the vote. Because no candidate secured more than 50% of the vote, the first and second place candidates will compete for the mayoralty in a runoff later this month, to be held on the 27th of October. Moving to the UK now, where over the weekend there's been a significant shift of power behind the scenes of Keir Starmer's government. Ever since winning the election in early July, a battle has been taking place between Sue Gray and Morgan McSweeney over who wields more influence. Nominally, Gray was Starmer's chief of staff, and McSweeney was Starmer's head of political strategy. It's understood that Gray helped the Prime Minister prepare for government, bringing her vast experience from her long career at the top of the civil service, while McSweeney has been credited with directing Labour's general election campaign. Over the last few weeks, Gray has hit headlines as a result of her high salary. It was reported that she was being paid around £3,000 more than the Prime Minister himself. This drew attention to her role in the government, and led to her being blamed for a lot of Labour's failings since coming to power. As a result, pressure really increased last week for her to either be let go or for her to resign. Gray resisted this pressure, and stated last week that she was not going anywhere. But by the end of the week, it was reported that she had resigned, with Gray stating that she had become a distraction. Some claim, however, that it was actually the Prime Minister that asked her to leave. Either way, the result of this has been that Morgan McSweeney has now been given Gray's old job, and is now Starmer's chief of staff. And in our final uplifting story today, we discuss new government-funded cancer tests. It's been reported this morning that the UK government will provide funding for a £120 blood test that has the potential to detect 12 of the most common forms of cancer before symptoms even develop. These cancers are lung, breast, prostate, pancreatic, colorectal, ovarian, liver, brain, esophageal, bladder, bone and soft tissue sarcoma, and gastric. The new kit is itself a form of PCR test, similar to the ones used in the pandemic. In total, the government will provide £2.5 million via the National Institute for Health and Care Research to spend on the test. As it's still early days, the initial phase will only see a few thousand people get tested. However, in the next few stages, several hundred thousands of volunteers could be recruited. We obviously discussed the Tunisian and Brazilian elections earlier in the episode, and if that's something you enjoyed, then you should check out Too Long, the 2024 election special. For those of you who don't know, Too Long is our physical magazine, where every 4 months we dive deep into stories we care about and you should know about. The next issue, set to be published on December the 1st, will run through every election that's happened in 2024, a year shaped by landmark elections across the globe, from the UK and US to elections in Indonesia, Bangladesh, Mexico, Rwanda, and the biggest democratic exercise in history in India. It's not just elections either. The next issue of Too Long will also discuss the first months of the new Labour administration in the UK, unpack the successes and failures of Biden's administration, ask why Europe feels so leaderless right now, the ongoing conflicts in Ukraine and Israel, and much, much more. You can pre-order your copy now at toolong.news. Better still, you can also subscribe to get 25% off every copy as long as you're a member, and get every copy sent to your front door or inbox. Plus, if you use code 2daily, you'll get an additional £2 off your order, which could bring the price down as low as £5.49. The link's in the description, and thank you for your support.